XRP holders, we just witnessed something very, very crazy, and we have to talk about this. We are going to go over this in detail because this is actually a very big deal. So first, let's actually start off with a few things. Number one, let's go back to August 8th, where we did see Ripple put out a post. Now, we did include this in a recent video, and it was basically just addressing the tokenization shift. You know, it's no longer a trend, it's reshaping global finance. Here's how RWAs are moving on-chain with secure institutional grade custody across the regions. Now, I'm not going to open this up and go in depth on this. The main things that we're actually looking at is just how the market around tokenized assets is expanding. Number one, treasuries and money market funds in the EU and USA are growing. They are becoming a reality. Agricultural receivables expanding rural access in Latin America. That's also becoming a big deal. Trade finance and structured lending in Southeast Asia. We already know that trade finance was destined to be on chain. When we talk about XDC, we address trade finance almost all the time. And then also real estate tokenization when control alt and land department on the XRP ledger is another big deal because, again, some of these markets like the global real estate market are in the hundreds of trillions of dollars, and they are starting to move on chain. This is a very, very big deal, and it's also confirmation of what's going to be hitting this space in the coming weeks, months, and years ahead. But what's even crazier about all of this is the focus on the XRP ledger. A lot of people continue to talk about the XRP ledger as if there's not going to be a lot of money tied to it in terms of like tokenization use cases. But this is where a lot of people are kind of missing the big target here because Ripple is one of the biggest facilitators of tokenized RWAs on chain, especially considering the fact that they have a full-on infrastructure built around this with the custody side of the market as well. Custody is so crucial for tokenized things of value moving on chain and actually having major use cases tied back to them. Now, if we go over here, we have Singapore is taking tokenization from pilots to real-world adoption, advancing regulated finance with greater access, efficiency, and market maturity. Fiona Murray, VP and Managing Director, APAC at Ripple, shares insights on how progressive regulation and blockchain and innovation on the XRP ledger are driving this shift. And again, focus on the XRP ledger. And this is actually very exciting. I'm going to go in depth on this here in a second. But I want you guys to realize that these areas like Singapore are so crucial for Ripple and XRP. Why? Because we know that Ripple and the XRP name have been expanding in these areas for years. For an example, we go back to just July 4th, Ripple and Tenity to launch Blockchain Accelerator, advancing innovation and talent development. Guess where? In Singapore. This is all based around Singapore. And this was all regarding the XRP ledger, use cases on the XRP ledger. Scalable use cases at that. Tokenization, institutional DeFi, and even AI and blockchain were the main focus of this accelerator program. On top of that, we also know that if we go back to 2021, this is where Ripple actually expanded their Asian presence with a new office in Singapore. And building on top of that, we know that back in 2023, Ripple obtained a full license to operate in Singapore as it expanded its Asia Pacific dominance. And this was definitely a big deal as well because this is during the SEC lawsuit still. So this was clear confirmation that Ripple was expanding outside of the US, even though we had that lawsuit active in the US. Now, let's go over to this post here from Bank XRP that did quote this and said, "This is good for XRP because Singapore's shift to real-world tokenization on the XRP ledger increases demand for XRP as the native currency. The clear 2025 regulatory framework from the Monetary Authority of Singapore validates XRP's use, attracting institutions unlike the uncertain US market. XRP ledger speed, 3 to 5 seconds, gives XRP a competitive edge over rivals like Ethereum. Tokenizing real-world assets opens new markets, boosting XRP's role as a bridge or settlement asset. With a projected $2 trillion market by 2030, success in Singapore could spark global adoption, enhancing XRP's utility and value." And yes, it can. And when we go into this document here from Fiona Murray, we do have Singapore has become a hub for digital asset innovation driven by progressive regulation, strong institutional engagement, and a commitment to advancing blockchain-powered finance. Since 2022, initiatives like Project Guardian have brought together major financial institutions to explore asset tokenization and decentralized finance applications within regulated frameworks, paving the way for the future of open, interoperable, and institutional-grade finance. Now, if we actually look at a few things here, we have down here a few additional breakdowns of what Singapore has been focused on with some big players. The main focus here is RWA tokenization and just blockchain innovation itself and accelerating the adoption of this tech. And the main thing here is the transition is clear. The shift towards leveraging public blockchains, which is a very important thing to note, has progressed from experimental pilots to developing foundational infrastructures for real-world financial activities. Now, here we have the breakdown of how public blockchains enable tokenization. They offer deeper liquidity, 24/7 settlement, and open access. Key enablers for unlocking the full value of tokenized assets across institutional lending, trade finance, foreign exchange, and private equity. Originally built for peer-to-peer value exchange, public blockchains have matured to support sophisticated use cases like representing RWAs as tradable digital assets. This evolution promises a more open, efficient, and global financial system, including assets such as real estate, commodities, intellectual property, and stablecoins. And the XRP ledger is the perfect home for this, and this is representing a $19 trillion market opportunity. So we love to see this, and they do break down everything that's happening on the XRP ledger down here and a lot of the tokenization moves. I really do think that when it comes to the XRP ledger, with all of the new features that have been launching on it through the amendments, I think everything happening around the XRP ledger right now is supporting this big push, this big shift around tokenized RWAs. And I don't think that a lot of people are actually paying attention to this at this point. Now, as we do think about this, what is the big thing that just happened? What is this? I said, whoa, I'm not sure if this is a glitch on, RWA.xyz, but XRP's total RWA value on chain just skyrocketed to over $1 billion plus. This means that XRP is technically the second largest layer 1 network. ZK Sync is a layer 2 by total RWA value. This is how fast things can change in the tokenization space. And if we actually look here, we have XRP ledger 1.13 billion. XRP is number 3 under ZK Sync. Technically, like I said, ZK Sync is a layer 2. So XRP is now number 2 in the largest amount of RWA total value on chain for layer 1 networks. We could see it over here. We could also see the big spike to almost $15 billion in the last 30 days for public networks total RWA value. And if we look at XRP, I don't even think that RWA.xyz is up to date here, but we could see 1.13 billion, 18 total RWA assets on chain, and we could see that big spike. Now, all of this is actually coming from Vert Capital. I don't know if Ripple shared the Vert Capital news. I know that Ripple X Dev did previously, but basically Vert Capital was tokenizing like $1 billion plus on chain. I know that XDC was also a part of that push, but it's very clear at this point that, we are witnessing a big shift here for these networks, and XRP is witnessing a very large amount of this value hitting the network. This is extremely exciting. Now, when we are actually looking at all of the tokenized assets here on the XRP ledger, private credit is basically number 1 at this point because of how much money Vert does have tied to it. It's almost at $1 billion. I think it's a little over like 800 or 900 million dollars. We could see that Vert now has 5 tokenized assets on chain for the XRP ledger. It starts with this one down here, which is, about $41.5 million. Then we also have 120, almost 5 million, 140, almost 2 million, 300, almost 2 million, 330, almost $3 million, all tied to these. And this is extremely exciting. Now, like I said, Vert Capital was originally tokenizing on a few networks, but it looks as though most of their money is tied back to the XRP ledger here. I thought that this was going to update, but I don't know if Vert Capital is actually being tracked here. I thought it was actually going to open up a new page. Typically it does. Like, for an example, if I open up Open Eden, we could see, XRP is number 2. So I do apologize for that. I think that they might just be adding this currently to RWA.xyz, but we could see that XRP is like the main one for some of these tokenized assets. But this is extremely exciting stuff. Listen, this is a clear confirmation that the tokenized market for XRP is opening up in a huge way. And it's at a time where we are also hearing from some of the prominent employees at Ripple, like for example, Marcus Invinger, that is saying, as with all new technologies, real-world asset tokenization won't be delivered with a sudden leap from old to new. It will be an evolution. We witnessed something similar when early financial markets made the move from paper to fully electronic systems. It didn't happen overnight. The evolution of tokenized assets is following a deliberate, incremental path. Legacy structures and legal frameworks remain important in helping institutions engage with the new technology. For instance, special purpose vehicles, SPVs, are providing familiar legal wrappers and operational models, helping institutions engage with blockchain at scale by holding assets like US treasuries and real estate off-chain while issuing digital tokens on-chain. But SPVs are not the destination. The true feature lies in natively issued on-chain assets. This transformation isn't just a technical upgrade, it's a complete redefinition of financial logic, where compliance is enforced by code and settlement is instant. And yes, this is the big revolution in real time. And this is also a part of that post that Ripple did make on August 12th regarding from immobilization to tokenization, why special purpose vehicles are a bridge, not the destination. And we can actually see within this, they are talking about these major institutional players like Euroclear and the DTCC, and how they're, really kind of moving towards the digital side. They're just talking about how the shift has been happening for quite some time. I mean, it's been a long journey, but when we think about what's going on here, we are looking at the future, and here we actually have native issuance, the real opportunity. The true transformation lies in natively issued on-chain assets, securities, credit instruments, and real estate that are born digital, enforce compliance through code, and settle atomically without legal wrappers. This isn't just a technical upgrade. It redefines financial logic. With native issuance, the token is the legal instrument. Compliance is embedded at the protocol level. Liquidity is composable, not fragmented. Custody, settlement, and compliance becomes programmable. This is where the XRP ledger is optimized to lead as a public blockchain designed for finance. The XRP ledger offers native support for direct issuance, composability, and institutional-grade programmability. Key features needed to realize the full potential of RWA tokenization. Not only that, but XRP has been utilized within POCs for years regarding atomic settlement. And if we go back up here, we could see that they want to settle these things atomically without legal wrappers. XRP is the perfect network for this. Ripple contributes to this infrastructure by advancing core protocol development, collaborating with institutional partners, and supporting ecosystem projects building on the XRP ledger. Projects like, for example, this is the DLD with Control Alt, is already demonstrating this future. Their pilot sees property ownership records being minted on-chain in the case on the XRP ledger. The result, streamlined transfer, improved auditability, and regulatory oversight, all natively embedded. And here are all of those key upgrades through the amendment process that are actually offering these key tools that's needed to issue, trade, and manage tokenized assets at scale. Guys, we are witnessing the biggest revolution ever. That's going to lead to hundreds of trillions of dollars moving on chain. Right now, XRP just hit the $1 billion level. This is extremely exciting to see. There was only 2 other networks here, and one of them is a layer 2 that has over $1 billion in value tied to it. It starts with 1 billion, we hit 10 billion, 100 billion, and then we finally get to that $1 trillion level. Guys, this is a very, very exciting day for XRP. It's finally happening. We are witnessing that big step function moment for the XRP ledger. I'm very excited about what's going to be hitting the network over time here. This is a very exciting moment for tokenization on the XRP ledger. It's a clear confirmation that we are going to see much more value hitting the XRP ledger as well going forward. and I'm very excited about this. So with that being said, I hope that guys enjoyed this video. If you guys haven't, leave a like, subscribe, so notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out.